view on the cost, right? I don't readily share these to anyone, right? I would say I would probably have we have had a sale on the cloud, a lifetime, maybe once a year, where I offer it to people that are serious about it and that are willing to utilize it and ask questions and build a long-term portfolio. And that's how I use these clouds. These are based on Keltner channels, right? They do have some customizations around them, and they come in with the search feature, right? Where I'm able to find stocks at specific levels. And from there, I'm able to kind of add to my long-term portfolio based on looking at, good companies at these monthly bottoms or even sometimes quarterly and yearly levels. So that's what we're going to do today. These are multi-time frames, so it doesn't really matter what candles I'm on. If I can go to daily, the weekly level doesn't change. For instance, 126.94, that level still stays the same as you guys see, 126.94. The candles itself really don't matter. These levels stay the same. So if you see, I don't know, company is AAON, whatever, the monthly bottom, for instance, and the quarterly bottom would be somewhere around $56. And that's something that, what the company does, do enough research on it, right? It might be potentially a good long. Last time that we were in that cloud, right, was somewhere around here. And you see from there, they completed a full cycle up to the monthly top, 113, it's almost like a double. And my portfolio is driven off of these, and I add based on what I see on these clouds. There's some logic to them where the clouds remain open or closed. And that's basically on the MACD plus volume combination that it determines if the cloud on the bottom is closed. So let's say if this cloud was closed at the bottom and we come in here, there's a high chance the cloud's going to hold. So it gives you a little bit more confidence especially when we go from the bottom, regain the cloud, and then the cloud becomes closed. That becomes a go ahead for adding shares or shorting, I would say, in this case, if the cloud at the top is closed. And I'll show you guys what I mean. So here's, for instance, Apple, right? From period of time, we went to that cloud, right? We went above it, reclaimed it, and here's where we got it. And then we went all the way to the monthly top, right? And you guys see that we peaked inside, and then we are not able to break the cloud. And ultimately, we're trying to hold that 213, 204 area. If we're not able to, this is actually where Apple is headed. Just an example. Does that make sense to newer folks, older folks, everybody on the same page?
Yep.
All right. So now what I do, and then I have a scan that basically searches for stocks at specific levels. I'm looking for all the stocks that are in monthly bottoms first. And of course, I'll run a scan today a little bit deeper, more like quarterly bottom. And you can even do a yearly bottom, right? And you guys will see that here I have the yearly clouds as well. So let me show you. So here's I have the week, month, and then I also have yearly cloud enabled as well. So yearly cloud, and you can change these colors, right, if you want. But you'll see here, for instance, for the year, if I click here, I'm able to change it. This one is colored green. And then the same thing could be on the quarterly. I could change the color. This one is teal, right? So I just use it based on logic. And you'll have the top cloud, like you see the weekly here, and it's blue, and the corresponding dotted, whatever color here, is corresponding to the middle of that cloud. So for instance, here on Apple, the monthly middle is at 204 plus the weekly bottom. That's not a level you want to be necessarily, adding to a short unless we go from the bottom, and that becomes a really good short to 173. So I'll go over the setups if you guys are interested, but for right now, I'm just looking for long-term opportunities, right? And I have them sorted by the sector on the left, and I'm just looking to see if there's any opportunities to deploy some cash that I have on the sidelines so I can find some opportunities for a longer-term hold. This is not a day hold, 2-day hold. I typically hold these sometimes more than a year, sometimes more than 6 months. It all depends on my personal position as well as the tax complications, and I'll leave that up to you guys to handle on your side and the research, whether it's a buy or sell for any of the equity, right? It's not advice, it's just me scanning for my stuff and telling you what I plan on doing. Okay. So with that being said, we're gonna start with, first we're gonna start with any requests that you guys have, and then we can take a look at, what do we have going in that.
There's 2 in the chat, 2 requests.
So let's see, try and find them. Kroger. Okay, so let's take a look at Kroger for a second. Yeah, so if you guys take a look at it, right, Kroger is well above, I would say, these clouds, right? So they're basically at all-time high breakouts, right? So it's not somewhere that we would add necessarily. I think we had Kroger a little bit cheaper here at some point, somewhere around here. I actually had it cheaper than that. So I actually sold everything from Kroger, right? If it was to come back, let's say to 53 to 49 level, I'd be interested in adding Kroger myself, right? 'Cause I don't have a position anymore to take all of it off. It's a slow mover, right? So once you get it, you have to sit there for a while and watch it, but it does pay great dividends. So for me, it was just collecting that. If that makes sense. So I plan on holding it. If I was to capture it here at 49.50, or if they're really nice and give you this 25, this is a no-brainer ad for me. If there were to ever offer this again, this would be pretty good. So ultimately, you want at least 52, I would say 45 to be offered on it. So it's quite a fall from here. Be probably about 34% discount that you're looking. Yeah, you just have to patient on this one here. I wouldn't necessarily add here. Crowd, take a look. Crowd doesn't have enough data, so we'll go on a smaller time frame. So crowd's right at the pivotal level, right? So you see the monthly top and the weekly top were kind of together. They gave you a nice retest here for a short opportunity at 393, now at 310. It bounced perfectly all the way to about 340, right? So I would anticipate if I wanted to buy shares of crowd, I wouldn't buy them here personally. Is there a chance they bounce here and go back to 393? Certainly. But I'm trying to do a longer term hold, so I'll be interested anywhere this 200 to 190 area. If 157 is to be offered, right, I would say that's pretty good. But you also have this MACD divergence on the bottom being highlighted, so there's probably more down before any meaningful up. For me, it would be closer to 200 that I'd be interested in crowd. RKLB. Oh,
Can you look at Boo?
yeah. So this one here is, I mean, this one here is at the monthly top, whatever this is, Rocket Lab, and it's looking like it has found buyers. This is actually a really good setup for a long. So if you do take this long opportunity on this Rocket Lab, your stop loss has to be somewhere around 14, call it, below 14, 13.8. If you're taking this, but your upside could be all the way to 24 and then 31. I don't know what they do, right? But if this was to get really ugly and they lose this 14, then you have 10 that's next. And ultimately it would be back to $4 to the monthly bond. You guys see that they started at the monthlies, they went, completed the cycle, weekly shifted. So this is not a bad ad. If I was interested in this company, I would not mind adding here. I just don't know what they do. Did you say VOO? Like VOO?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So for VOO to play out, we still have quite a bit to go, right? You don't want to necessarily long-term add. You don't want to add here. I would be looking to add somewhere in 439, 425 area. So I would say we still have a little bit to go where I'd be interested in it. And remember, this is not a bad ad. Long term, if you have kids, it's a pretty good play long term. So you want to get
Yeah.
a long term discount as well.
All right.
If, for
Thanks.
instance, this was to give us, let's say we dump and they give us 355, I'd be really interested in adding in this area as well. And not to say, when I go on monthlies now, you'll see this, right? So if they really want to give us a crazy amount of discount, anything in 240 area, you close your eyes and you buy. Got at least I would in this area. So this would be a pretty major level here that they would have to play with. That'd be a hell of a discount for me. The highs to here, you're talking about 55% discount. That would be a sweet deal. But I think at 440 will be a decent bounce.
All right. Cool. Thanks. Yeah. I'm trying to dollar cost down on this one too.
Yep. Here's RH, and this one you guys see. This one's pretty good, right? So this one struggled. It went, and you guys see that it went to the monthly top, and you can notice here that it basically tapped the top of the band on the monthlies, and it struggled. Then it gave you a retest for a short right here at 415. Once that was in play, this is where the clouds become powerful. They completed the whole cycle from the top to the bottom. So the whole bear cycle took in 2 months, 3 months to complete here. So, and I don't see any aggressive buyers just yet on this. So is the monthly bottom here fair to buy? I would say so. I just don't know how I would say how their financials are and why they're selling off. That would be the next thing that I would check on RH. They're a pretty good company, right? Don't get me wrong. I would take a look at, can I add here? And is their sales going down? Is their revenue going down? What is the reason for this? I mean, from 700, right, to 150 is a pretty big discount. And that's the next step I would do is look at their financials and see, there's something to notice what is happening here. And right now, I mean, their sales are pretty flat, guys, not growing at all. Single digits growth. They struggled in 23, 24, barely growing here. So then I'm just looking at their profit. It's also going down. Cash flow. Yeah, their cash flow is getting worse. So I think they, probably will bounce here. You could buy it, but I wouldn't be shocked if it goes into double digits here. If it loses this level, definitely go to 72.34. Not something I would buy here personally. But MU, MU is very close to a striking range for myself, where I'll be interested in buying. And you guys see again, monthly top, they lost it. They came under, executed basically. You see where they bounced. They bounced at the monthly bottom. Here's the quarterly cloud as well. So here you have the monthly bottom, right? Completed the whole cycle here. So I wouldn't be shocked, right? I mean, and there's a lot of support here on MU. So you have this weekly middle, then you have the quarterly middle. So there's a lot of bounces in between this. But this is, I would say, probably a decent spot for a long-term hold. And this is probably over a year hold. And I'll be adding some shares in this cloud zone here, 62 to 51. And remember, if I get in a 62 to 51, my stop loss is not there. Personally, I would probably drop it a little bit less, right, to hold it. But this works out, let's say the AI story spike up again, you're looking for a double. The extensions would be much bigger than that. We're talking about somewhere around here, 216 would be the extension, the golden fib here on this one. Most likely a decent ad would be here. I did grab some calls, 2027 calls here Friday. I'll be looking to add this range here. Hopefully they give us the opportunity again.
Can you check out WHR? We've done it before.
Whirlpool.
Yeah, and
Whirlpool
I
is
made a bunch
actually
of money.
it's a good ad right here because last time I think here in the same area right now. See, it's in the monthly bottom, it's in the quarterly bottom as well. But look at the top where it rejected. Yearly cloud, quarterly cloud, they struggled. Once that's lost, I mean, you see how well it just basically came back to a monthly bottom. This is not a bad area for Whirlpool. Looking at their
Yeah, I
financials
sold
real
it on
quick.
that spike with that news, and it just ended up working perfectly.
They're also sales are plummeting.
Yeah, they had that last little spike because of Bosch was going to buy them out or something. I haven't heard anything more since then.
Do they pay dividends? They do.
I believe so.
Oh wow, dude, their yield is 8%.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. That's why I found them. I was looking for companies that had good dividends, and you could find a lot of good things at quarterly bottom just by searching them up.
Oh man, I like this one for ad actually. Like I'm gonna look to add this on Monday.
They have a huge layoff a couple of days ago.
That's very good for the stock. I hate to say it, but that's very good for the stock. I mean, their dividend is $7 per share, annually. Pretty good here.
Yeah, they have earnings coming up in a few weeks too, so it might be just a good spot.
And you see here, look at the monthly, bottom where it bounced. Few cents away, 22 cents away. So it might not be a bad opportunity, especially if it hits anywhere 71. Golden ticket. I'll add Ripple. I like this find, especially the dividends. PH where I do like the dividend plays. Makes some sense for me. Right? Remember, a lot of people struggle with this, and I'll just say it out loud for a lot of you guys to get yourself situated in the market that we're in. A lot of people look to buy the tops, and when optimism and happiness is great, the way I'm able to grow my long-term portfolio over years is I like to buy stuff when it's bloody. You guys remember AT&T? A lot of people are like, man, they're bankrupt. They're gonna go out of it, right? We were able to add that, guys, in like I think low 13s. Majority people that did the analysis and they added it here. I was also able to trim a lot of it at $26 here. So almost 100% play on it, and I collected quite a bit of dividends. Did I have to sell all of it? Probably not. But if I can get a discount back to 18, I'll buy back up. Right then, I'll be buying. I made capital gains. I made dividends. If I can catch this fall from here to here, which is like 35%, that would be excellent. I can buy more shares with the same growth that I made from AT&T, but you have to be confident in what you're doing. And I think, buying when there is blood in a good company is the way to go. A lot of people start selling their holdings, and that's kind of what they want you. They scare you and you fall for the tactic. And then shortly after, they just rip like they did here. Say be smart with the money, not necessarily scared.
Shorty, did you buy KHC?
KFC. I did not KFC it. KFC, right? The Kraft Heinz now.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, but
KHC.
I think it's actually in a not a bad spot right now, right? It's on the bottom of the monthly. They actually trapped the shorts here. I might potentially add that Monday.
Yeah, it has a pretty good dividend too.
Yeah, they're excellent. Buffett has this. I will actually add this on Monday regardless, but I can hold this. If you guys look at the stock. Like this is not bad ad. They're buying at the bottom of this, right? And I'm pretty sure they're buying this here. So if you guys look at their dividend yield, I thought it was over 5%. Yeah, 5.4 is their dividend yield. That's an actually pretty good yield, guys. I'll definitely add these. Came up last time. I'll add it again. So I'll add market order down to MUET. This SK Lauderdale or energy. Oh, not here. I will not add energy right here. If it comes back to about $14, might be a decent add. That'll be the quarterly mid plus the monthly bottom. That'll be a really decent add. And I like ET. I think one of my friends who's pretty big into energy, he mentioned a few times. Had it. But anywhere in 14 range, I'd be interested to add. RCL. I don't think I have unlimited amount. Say I would add, that means I have free position in my portfolio to also free up cash, but I do have cash on the side. RCL, this? Wow. I haven't looked at cruise lines in a very long time. And holy moly. What's the other one?
Carnival?
Carnival. What was there? TL?
Yeah, CL.
No,
I know it's
hold
coming up
it
to the bottoms
here.
here.
I think it's CCL maybe.
CCL.
Okay, CCL. I forgot. Wow. I mean, this is insane. I remember I actually had this at $12. I mean, they were buying it. This is where the COVID sometimes, I don't know, where COVID scared the crap out of this. This is a pretty good monthly bottom ad. So, I mean, if it comes back to 12 to 10, it's not a bad ad. I think it's still a high risk. But either way, guys, I'm talking about yearly bottom here. If it comes to anywhere at 9 to 12, and you can hold it, you can still gain these type of returns on it, which would be about 190%. Might not be a bad ad. This RCL, I would say, is probably a little bit higher. Appreciate it a lot more. 48 to 300. That's a reasonable person, but they're gonna offer a bounce here, so I would say they probably have to lose 153, and then you could be targeting 93, 80s to get in. I would be interested. 122 is monthly bottom. Obviously, they're gonna get there, but this is gonna be a slow movement in this area between 170 and 130 is just gonna drag quite a bit. But monthly bottom would be at. I just don't like cruise lines right here at these prices. This was probably some good ads on the quarterlies, and I had Cardinal.
Shorty, where is the monthly bottom of IWM?
Close to it.
We actually just bounced
I
off
d-
of it.
No,
But
I cannot see the screen. My question is that why it bounced from 177 on Friday? Was that a level or
let's
just something
look.
else?
It literally bounced $1 away from the monthly level.
Okay.
Monthly bottom. So it needs to lose 166 for this to continue. If it loses 166, then the quarterly bottom is at 120. So 120 to 131 would be a big bounce on IWM. Probably not a bad ad
Oh,
to consider.
okay. Thank you.
SOXL, trying to keep everyone happy. Ooh. Wow. This is the same spot where SOXL bounced from last time and ran 60 points, guys. And here's that one. It bounced around this monthly bottom. You guys see it. We got in and now it's trying to go. So this could go. If we do catch a bounce, there's a lot of tariff news as we anticipated, right? This could be a decent ad, but I think this is a leveraged position. I think it's a 3x. Yeah, 3x. So remember, holding it long term can decay on your position as well. So be careful holding for a long period. ASML. Isn't that the chip as well? Okay, well, ASML, I would say look where it bounced. Can't even put anything. It tapped the monthly bottom perfectly, 595, and it offered a 40%. I'm sorry, $40 bounce there so far. Probably not a lot for a stock like this, right? But I think this is 500s. If you can get 500, like between 515 and 500, probably not a bad ad. It's a pricey stock, right? So you have to choose wisely and dividend pay here. If you care for dividends or just growth, dividends, yeah, dividend yield's not that great, but you don't expect the capital side of it thing. And they're growing.
MCHB
How
as well.
They're growing.
how is LMT looking? Lockheed Martin.
Pizza is, I think pizza is at a great spot, personally. I mean, you're at the quarterly bottom and the monthly bottom. either there's gonna be some buyout or some merge, something's gonna happen here shortly, guys, on this stock. I think pizza is a great add here. I already have some shares, that to see what the average is and actually add some more. Yeah, I think I'm gonna add. This is pretty good for me. While I'm in this, I'm just gonna check UPS, and here's UPS. It basically came to the quarterly bottom here, you guys see. Came $3 shy off of the quarterly bottom. So if it regains 111, probably is headed to 128, 135 zone, ultimately 58 would be the completion cycle. UPS is at a pretty good level. And UPS has great dividend, do have captures.
Hey, Shorty, can we look at Crocs after?
How's that? Is it COX?
CROX.
Okay, so here's Crocs. It is at the monthly bottom right now. At the monthly bottom, and it is at the quarterly bottom as well. So, and you see it's compressing here. So I just don't like the business, right? Personally, I would not buy here, but that's just me. So if I could catch it in 50s area, I would, even 20s, but that requires a lot of patience. Right now, there's a high chance it'll bounce, but I just personally be a buyer here. There's a chance it's gonna bounce here, but it's just not for me.
Shorty, how about Lockheed Martin, LMT?
Yep, I'm getting there, man. I'm just going down from the top of the list of that people request. So PLTR. Okay. So PLTR is headed to 62.55 zone. I personally wouldn't buy here, but if it does come to this area, it will be a good bounce on it. Pretty sure all the retail is gonna hop in this area where you have this, say 64.11. Gonna be a bounce. Pretty certain they're gonna go for it. Get their short here. Then ultimately, let's say they fail to hold 55, they're going 40 and then back to where it belongs. But I think 64 will be a bounce. If you play options, it might be a decent option on PLTR at 64. At least I would look for it on the list. Okay. PR, Bank of PayPal. PayPal. PayPal's probably been at the bottom time. Well, they completed the cycle up. I just haven't looked at it. So now, if you guys are looking, PayPal at 51 to 46 would be an ad. But I would not buy it, but if you like the company, that would probably be the level I would, if I was interested, I'd buy there. PayPal, Bank of America. Probably has a few more dollars to go. Oh, they tapped it. Oh, they tapped it. They look pretty good here. So if you guys remember, maybe, I don't know if you do, but SIT was in some of the puts for Bank of America a while back. It short 33. Here's where they hit. They hit 33.59. Yeah, there's a chance they're gonna bounce here, probably 39 to 40. I would think it would be at 31.29. It might be potentially a good ad. Hopefully, Sit or whoever was short, you took that opportunity to close towards 30, but that was, I would say, pretty good profits on a stock that moved $13 to the downside. Yeah, 31.29 would be the level. I would look for it. If they're really generous guys and we get more sell-off, right? Especially with interest rates, they can impact some banks and whatnot. If they give us 17 to 14, I think that's the same type of buy like we had for AT&T. Great. JPM has long ways to go as well. I wouldn't be interested in JPM till it comes to this cluster here. Yearly, monthly, and quarterly bottom here. I wouldn't even look at it. 170, 60 JPM. Pretty good deal there. But yep, I can do that. VST. Yeah. No ad here. It's definitely that it can bounce here, but there's probably more down here for this. I would say there's a high chance that you can catch this if you're patient enough at this level here. It hasn't completed that cycle yet, but it will. So if you look here, it went above the monthly. It went above the monthly cloud right here. Then it tried to hold and it failed. Now it's gonna go to 486. It's gonna take some time, probably by Q3 you can catch this price, but I wouldn't be interested in it here. If it unleashes buying, right, and clears 135, yeah, there's a chance it can go 182, but you're not buying it below value. Below value would be this area 49 monthly bottom would be. There'll be ABB. This probably got beat down. So here's the same setup. Let's say completed. You see the monthly completion is done. They came under the cloud. They executed to the middle. Now they're basically in the bottom of the monthly cloud. See them. Price action here is going to be pretty shitty, pretty slow. But once they, let's say 410, that's $50 away. They have a chance to run. Right. If we do see them, let's say they can't hold this level of 356, they can't stay above this level right here. If they can't hold this level right here, 356, probably a stop loss anywhere at 340. But this is a congested support for them. Monthly bottom, weekly bottom, yearly. There's a lot of stuff. Quarterly bottoms here. This is quarterly top. This is a good opportunity for Adobe to bounce here. So I wouldn't be surprised if this offers a pretty good return from here. Might not be a bad ad, but me being frugal, considering where we are on a borderline, probably considering the price somewhere around cheaper levels would be a good long-term ad. But this is not a bad level to initiate. If I wanted to, this would be a spot where you can add it right now with some stop loss right below like 335 or so. There'll be SNPF. I'm just going down the list, guys, for the Discord chat. I don't know what this company does. Really self price. Pretty well first. Just looking at their financials quickly. Actually don't look bad here at the monthly bottom right now. Obviously they can't hold this 364. Go long off of this level. You'd probably target 500 guys from here, 520 on this one. Probably all the way to this 493 area. I don't know if they're optionable or not. This should not a bad ad to go off of here. You would want to clear, if you want to catch the 493, ideally you want them to be at least inside the 419. But the risk here is if you take it, let's say right now is a 388. I mean, you're not risking a whole lot. 364. That's not a bad risk, right? This is at an interesting level, and the company is growing, and they do quite a good technical stuff, right? Automation, software, design, and test integrated circuits. I'm pretty sure they'll be in demand. Yeah, this is a pretty good setup here. I'm gonna see if I can keep an eye on it, see how it does. Yeah, this one's not a bad ad. SQQQ. Yeah, this is not gonna look good on a cloud, guys. It's hard to look at SQQ. TFE. Look at it. This is keep saying that I have a lot of Pfizer and I keep adding Pfizer, and this is a no-brainer for me. This is a great ad, and they have one of the highest dividend yields. So, and you see here, it has so much. I mean, it has quarterly bottom, weekly bottom, monthly bottom. The only thing that's remaining below is yearly, and I'll probably add even at the yearly. Pretty good company, powerful company. And if you look at this on the weekly, major bullish divergence 2 times here.
This is which stock?
Pfizer.
Oh, Pfizer. Yeah, I added on Friday.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer.
I did too.
Yeah, I have quite a bit of shares now. I think it's more than 18% of my portfolio.
Did you ever add Dollar Tree?
I had it a little bit, and I don't know how they're doing. I had it in my kids' portfolios, but this conversation would kill Dollar Tree of tariffs. Right? This would kill them.
From China, yeah.
Yeah, this will kill them. So I added, I think it was 70. I'll have to check. I think it's like 77, 76 or something like that. I don't know. I did add it. Not large size, just because of everything that we had talked. Not a big size there.
Yeah, I have a little bit too, not a lot.
You Intuit, is Intuit the one that owns TurboTax, or is that a different company?
I think they did like merge. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Right now, it still has more ways to go. I wouldn't be interested in buying it here. I still think it's going to go 500 to 468. That might be a decent ad, but then look at the space it has. I think 400, like 399 to 369 is a much better ad, and they're selling the crap out of it right now. This is just starting. It hasn't even started the sale yet. Is there a chance to, stay here in this area for a little bit longer? But ultimately, you're looking for you're looking for a bigger discount. I wouldn't. LMT, Martin, is at the weekly bottom. Monthly bottom is slightly below at 414, and then a yearly bottom at 404. So closer to 400 to 395. This might be a great ad, especially with the talk of wars. And you can see how much time they accumulated in these areas. Here you have another accumulation here, and we are right there right now. So you're at the weekly bottom, monthly bottom. I would want it somewhere around here. this area. 414's 393. They'll be there shortly. That'll be a good out there. MCH. Look at this monthly projection here. Come back, test it on the bottom. Perfect. Completed the whole monthly cycle. Now it's in basically a yearly. So not a bad ad, but if you want to be frugal, over a few dollars, 29 to 23 will be a good ad if the chips decide to go more. This probably be a really, really good ad. Take a look at it. If they give you this 29 to 23, this would be a pretty good zone, guys. Hold forever. Again, without the majority shareholder. Some reports. This is pretty good. If they give me 9, they're not going to get me out of this position. I'm not going to be out of this position yet. But this is at the monthly bottom, quarterly bottom. You could add to have leaps 35, which should be somewhere around here. If you're able to go from here to here, those would be in the money. I think we're in December 27th, January 22. Not a bad play. You can see here from the yearly they fell, they came back to the quarterly, rejected monthly, completed the cycle. So and there's the divergence. I think a long term man. I have enough. Can't even. Wolf, here's Wolf. Of course, it went from $100 and something to $2, right? It's a pretty big wipe. I think slowly, if they can reclaim this, which is far 875, they'll be good, right? They did get a new CEO, right? So I think there's going to be a change eventually, probably a buyout on the table here. I'll keep an eye on this, right? This is not a bad ad. We added 2.6 or 2.68 Wolf. So it's not a bad to hold, right? If in case it does something crazy like this, guys, and you're holding 48, that's pretty good. Throwing some change on it, it's not a bad idea. I wouldn't. Let's see. This the dividend stock that we had at one point. Oh yeah, that's the clothing company.
Yeah, I remember you looking at that before.
Yeah, it had a good dividend. Their life, yeah. This is a pretty good ad here. You're at the yearly bottom. If you're not gonna add it here, I'm not sure where you will add it. Right, you're at the monthly bottom and the yearly bottom. This is where you add it. They just completed the whole cycle. Basically, all the cycle was done on it. Here's the yearly cycle done. This is a very good opportunity for WST, and I'll actually add it myself. Yeah, this is a pretty good risk reward.
What are they doing financially right now? They had a reorg a couple of months ago. We looked at it.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it right now. Financial side, right? Looking here and see what they're doing. And if you look at their sales, they're staying pretty flat. And that's what you expect, I would say, from dividends, right? They're not gonna do a lot, right? Crazy stuff, but they're staying flat. Looking here, cash flow, I mean, they did cut down in half, but there's probably something that happened, right? Something triggered it, and you could look at through the financials to see this. Investing cash flow increased. We can figure out what happened for the financials. Net cash flow is pretty good. Free cash flow cut in half. Yeah, this is not a bad ad. I really like this. Yeah, Exxon, like I think we talked about it one of the days, is just I would not necessarily add Exxon here. Is there a chance that this can be, rocketing higher? Yes, but I just my type of buy. I like to buy stuff a little bit deeper. Right? If I was to look to buy this, it would be in this range here if somewhere something happened. Right now, the monthly is condensed. They're in the quarterly, and you see the price action. When the clouds are condensed, you're not getting ping pong. Uh, 7. Not an opportunity to add, but if you do lose 92, watch out. That fall is going to be pretty quick. They might bounce here, and then ultimately you're looking at another 5%. I wouldn't add it here. ARK2. Some good stocks. I like the look. What is this? Is this the ladies ETF she manages? Oh, it's the one that bought Tesla a bunch of times. Oh, it is. I forgot. Kathy Wood. I mean, it is at the monthly bottom here, but it doesn't mean much. I just don't like buying some of the stuff that's necessarily managed like this. Not my cup of tea here, but it is at the monthly bottom right now, and it's setting up for a nice potential play here. So if you look, all the spring, they're actually accumulating. They dip the monthly bottom. So if you're going to add it, this is the level potentially. Tapped it perfectly here to a penny, then 6 cents up under the cloud, and it bounced quite a bit, right? 10% bounce for the monthly bottom. Pretty solid. Yeah, this is the area where you can add and hold, but probably do a double. Almost a double. 83% of potential on the upside. So pretty good odds, but pretty good level. So don't let that deter you. AMD. So here's AMD. So like we talked about, right? And say, I think we targeted this on AMD a while back. While a lot of people were really bullish at it. 96, they were buying like crazy. I would say this is not a bad ad. And if we lose 76 on AMD, things will get nasty, right? If you guys remember, our last ad was in this area. AMD was here at 160s or something like that. We were in the 50s. This is not a bad ad. Oops. This is not a bad ad for AMD. If you guys recall, we targeted, I think it was 79-ish to about 85 area. We are right there right now. So this is not a bad ad, but you have to buy and forget on it. Price, right? Maybe they dip below the 75. You would have to kind of sit through it, right? And this would be your weekly and your yearly mid. I doubt that we're gonna go into the 20s. No, but this is not a bad ad for AMD right now as it is. This, I still say Disney is a $30 stock. So Disney just bounced. I mean, a lot of people are buying at the bottom. I don't know if you guys remember when they hit this, we said, yes, it's a good buy, but I didn't buy it because I was looking more to hit the levels here. I'm being really cheap on this one because I just don't know if their business model is going to sustain growth. I think they need to reposition themselves in the market a little bit. So if if they offer 82 here, you can certainly buy it, right? You can at least catch 100. So you're talking about decent returns. The monthly bottom here, talking about 25% return, or on the bottom to the top, and that's what they've been executing, 44%. That's pretty good, right? But I just think I will wait on this one to $36. If it doesn't, yeah. Melly. Long ways to go. It's actually a perfect short on Melly here to 1300 on. So you should take a look at some options on Melly to 1300 because they pay fucking well. I'll look at some options for it's actually a really good short opportunity here. If it cracks the 1700, guys, that's a 400 drop. 25% discount. Take a look at the options here for a real quick. So,
Oof. So,
yeah,
good.
credit. So bad. The spread is really, really bad. I would not be a buyer here, especially with this diver. I'm pretty certain they're going to be a $1,300 here in Melly. Roblox. Data. Yeah, Roblox is screwed. Probably going to $45. I personally would not touch it till 31.26. So it's far away from my interest, right? I wouldn't be interested in it right here personally. There's a chance it can hold this weekly bottom, but they can't regain 63-ish. They're in trouble. Doubt they will.
Oof.
What is this?
Trump media.
Is this the company that Trump owns, like social media thing? I forgot the name of it. Yeah,
Truth Social? Truth Social, yeah.
what it looks like. Trump Media and Digital Technology Company. 29 employees. Yeah. Yeah, this is going to $4. Touch this till it gets to $4. There it might be a good entry. Personally. Nike. I did add more Nike. I think I announced where I got it, and my average was actually right here at 53 something. And does everybody understand why?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is, and any tariff news, guys, this is Nike that go to your garage or wherever you keep your shoes. If you walk in them, I guarantee you have a pair of Nike shoes, shirts, clothing. Buy the stuff that you use. That's one of the advice that I got, right? If you use it, eventually it'll come back. I would say Nike plays a big role in the apparel industry for all of us, right? So I did buy a lot of it, right? Shares. Be probably adding even. I don't. And they have okay dividend. The dividend's not that great, but they've been growing 10 years. I think this is not a bad ad on a company that's as powerful as Nike. How long they've been in the market. So if they go to 22, of course, I'd probably get stopped here, but this is a pretty big level for them to add here. And if you guys take a look, this was the demand that triggered this run here. And look where we are. We came right kind of maybe a little bit down the back here. So yeah, I added Nike at 53 range. It's a great ad. What else you guys got? So I covered everything we had there. Let me take a look, see YouTube. I covered. What else you guys got? Anyone on the call?
Shorty, Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, I covered that one. Were you there?
Maybe I was sleeping. So what was the level on that?
Did you do ET? I missed that.
Yep, I did ET. I did Lockheed Martin. So Lockheed Martin, I'm looking more towards this 400 to 402 level. Between 412 and 391 is where I'll be.
Okay, thank
I think it's a similar level we had last time. And RTX is probably not a bad comparison stock if you like some exposure to the, I would say, to this industry. This is not a bad keeper stock if your portfolio can hold it. My average on this is, I think, 60 something, but it has probably some room to come back down, especially if Trump ends the wars, right? Typically, you know, come back down. I would say there's probably more time to come back here. I think they run their course here, so you could probably. Yeah. Anyone else? Anything from Discord? Yeah, that's okay. There's a couple. So hood. I don't know if you guys remember the hood here. Do you guys remember when we talked about hood when it was here around $9? So this is a low risk ad here and for an expansion, and so they can bounce right here. This is probably a good ad for them because this would be a monthly backdoor with the weekly backdoor. A long-term share, if they can give you somewhere sub 25, like 25 to 23, that'd be a good ad. If you guys missed this on the bottom here. Cost. Cost. Attribute so much to it. Yeah, I mean, this stock just. So if you look at this, right, this is not an opportunity to add Costco. If it dips somewhere to 6, 7, 80, 650, certainly, right? That'd be a decent ad, but right here, this is a no ad. It's not gonna. This is a better short than a long. And that. Oh wow. Oh, what is this? Oh, Abercrombie. That's the clothing company. Guys, look at this. It went from $5 of the quarterly bottom. Pretty insane. 1,200%. And this right now here was not a bad ad because this would be the quarterly retest on the long. So this is most likely going to bounce somewhere close to 100. I wouldn't buy the company. I think they just do clothing or that much long-term hold, but it'll certainly bounce from here. And if it doesn't, then you're looking at this 45.38. Potentially a good ad. MGM, this might be good. So again, MGM, I think COVID lows all the way to like single digit up now. If it can hold this, which is trying 26, this has potential to bounce to about $47, so almost 100% on this right now. But this is the consolidation that it's in. Bracket. Remember, in recession, out these are the places where the money is going to go to. I could see it bouncing here, but if you want to expect a cheap price, I would wait. Maybe you don't get it, but this is not bad. If it can hit 16 to 12, it's a great ad. I think we found probably some better opportunities to deploy cash than this setup. Tesla, hopefully charts agree, 160s, 150s. Yeah, charts agree. Yeah, ultimately you're looking for an ad somewhere around 150 here, 150 to 142 would be desirable in Tesla. They bounced perfectly here, if you guys see it, off of the quarterly top to a penny, and they bounced nicely off of it, but monthly top is complete. Completed that, it went under, and now you're looking to see like you. It's most likely headed to this low 183s, but ultimately you want this monthly bottom line. 150s would be a great ad for long-term shares, and that's where I want it. I think it was 167 to 150 based on my own profile, and then these clouds confirm it. Don't be surprised if at any point in that life it trades to 20s. A lot of business to do there. Crazy, but remember, it's just a car company with automated self-driving, so they haven't proven more than that. But yeah. So I think 150 is good. That's the level I'm watching. Google. 129 to 119. Ultimately, I would add somewhere in here, which would be really good ad. 110 to 197 would be a fantastic ad. They probably will dip through this cloud eventually and give you this. That would be a pretty good ad. That would be almost 50% discount from the top. Google, I do think they'll get there. No, pretty good. If they give us, guys, I don't know who took it last time, but if you guys remember, monthly, we grabbed it here and we were targeting, I think, somewhere around here. If I remember, it was 190. I sold it. I sold it somewhere around here when we had the earnings. I think right around here I sold. We were looking for one point, we were looking for a re-ad, I think 50s on the bounce, and they offered that bounce. Now they're at weekly bottom. If you got it right here, this was also on the volume profile, it was somewhere around here at the ad level 4. Probably not bad for a long-term ad. Ultimately, I would want it to be, if I can catch this 107 to 90 again, I would really, really like this at this level again. But this is not a bad ad. Check. I'm pretty certain we talked about it on market profile, that it was the level we wanted at it. Yeah, 125.33 was the level. They came in very close to it. So this is what I'm talking. Remember, this was the level we wanted, the bottom here. They came back, so it's not a bad level to initiate a long. Pretty good entry here. So you're consolidating since February 22nd, and you're buying it at the value. This is a hell of a deal. I really like to know as well. Taking some notes. CPB, let's take a look. So if you guys remember, last time when we had the CPB, we added it at the monthly bottom somewhere around here, and we had a nice spot. It's not a fast mover, but you're looking 20% move is not bad. So I think anywhere in this zone, 37, 35, I think it's a pretty decent ad for a long term. They do pay dividends here to get lucky and get low 30s. That's even better. But this is not a bad ad. Lock range. Yeah, interesting. I'm just looking to see, right? So it's, revenues are low, but this is probably not a bad one to throw a couple of $2,000-$3,000, see what happens. You get it at 64 cents. If it catches any of these $7, that's a hell of a thing. Revisit here. Talking about almost 1,000% on the share. So for 1,000, you can make 10 on it. I'll look into this Bullfrog, see what they have. Put it- okay, let's see. If you're gonna buy, this is the level on this. Pretty much level 2 fire. Probably can be 200% from here, but this is the level 2 add. So what what is a pretty big level here, guys? We're talking about monthly bottom, quarterly bottom is around 7. So I mean, if you can catch it closer to about 8.7, that's great. 8.7, 794 would be a decent pricing going forward. Definitely watch this. That shit I hate. So I want to short it with everything I got, but I'm funny, so I won't do it here. I won't buy here. Let's see. Now I'm just gonna look and see if there's anything we missed because we did have a good list here. For metal. Hmm. Look, Boeing got it together there. Boeing can go a little bit lower. It's a good level here, right? From the cloud, Motley. It's probably gonna bounce from here all the way to about 90. TO might be decent. Yeah, this might hold, but I'm not gonna add this one here. Not enough. But Delta, let's see what Delta is. Ooh. You guys remember me talking about Delta not too long ago? That it was a great short when we looked at the Jets. Does anyone remember that? But this was probably an easy short. And look how well it executed. Delta's not bad out here, guys. Delta's actually not bad at all. Yeah, this is a pretty good ad. Delta. Consumer. Keep going. Okay, well, Airbnb came back to, I guess, some of the levels that we were looking for. It's in a strike zone between 106 and 96. Airbnb. Guys like the company there. Personally, not a big deal. There's Abercrombie, we covered some of these. Best Buy. There's some support here, but I just don't like breaking them. Either the whole cycle here. AAP was one stock that we bought and sold. At a level. This looks pretty good again for a bounce. Actually, yeah, it's a pretty good level for a bounce here on AAP. Might get back into it, but there's a brick and mortar again. You have to be careful a little bit of the size, but this looks not bad at anywhere like 33, 35. But I think we have better. Okay. I don't invest too much. $2. Right off the monthly, 50% discount, right off the monthly bottom. Dell is actually at a really, really interesting level, guys. Yeah, Dell is. Do you guys remember Dell when we talked about, that there's a high chance they might give us this monthly bottom at 60s? I mean, it's in the buy zone. Not necessarily here, because that's a hell of a bounce from 67ish, 59 to 80s, but anything 67, 56, that's a pretty good ad. And you see the price did not spend a lot of time at that level. I think it's a really good ad in that area. AMAT. Oh. This is not bad at all, guys. This is a pretty decent ad for AMAT. I like this one. We looked at this one, ENPH. This one is also at the monthly bottom here. This one looks good, and I think it's optionable nicely, but pretty liquid. Might not be bad to play some options. Options like maybe. Is this the? This is not the Shorty company. Maybe I'm. But I do like this one here. Check to see the options on it. It might not be bad. AMD recovered. Disney recovered. So I think we covered quite a bit. Some decent buys actually on the list right now. So what I'll do is I'll post in Shorty's corner when I execute some of these, but I will be buying. Just kind of recap. I will be buying Whirlpool. I'll buy KHC. Pizza's at a really, really enticing level. VFC, definitely not a bad ad. Snow is very close, so I'll be looking to add some snow. Might throw in some loose change on that or GN stock and see what it does. Delta Airlines, I'm sorry, not a bad level. Dell is a 60 level that we talked about. It's pretty good. I'd be interested to see if we can add that. I think that would be.
Are you personally done with Pfizer?
What do you mean? Sell it?
Like you're done adding to it?
Yeah, I don't think I want to increase a lot, but this is a really good ad for it. I mean, it has great dividends that you are adding here for long-term hold. You will be okay. Just do your research. Pfizer is a giant company here. this is a really good ad. There's a lot of bullish divergence. Lagging, but this is the better. Okay. Any questions on any other stocks?
Can you review Newell,
Which one?
NWL?
NWL? Oh, Neil Brand. Oh. Yeah, I mean, I think we had this one folios for some time. If you guys remember from here, this is a pretty good ad right now. You could target that 10.6 again. That'll be the monthly bottom. This is a spring 2 times here. This is not a bad ad here. Yeah, I don't mind adding this here. This is a yearly bottom at 458. The monthlies were at 514. I think that's a good ad. I might add some Newell as well. I mean, it paid last time. I don't know if anyone grabbed it last time, but it did pay nicely. And they own a lot, right? So they're a pretty big company. Okay. Any other ones?
I'm gonna be selfish and ask for a second one. Can you look at Solar Edge? It's SEDG.
This?
Yeah, that one had a few gaps and
Oh,
all that news out, but
what in the world is this?
it's
Oh,
they
I mean,
make converters for solar systems.
I mean, they don't have much more to go unless they sign bankruptcy here. So let me see. Look at the financials. Oh man, they lost a lot of business for some reason.
Yeah, they closed a lot of European quarters down there.
Yeah, I would have to dig into it. I mean, but golly, $340 to 15.
Crazy stuff.
I'll probably ask Dirty to take a look at it. I don't know if you know him. He does a lot of stuff with the solar panel sales. He knows them inside.
Yeah. Yeah, and their counterpart is Enphase, which is American based. So they might have a
It
better.
might be a buyout. That's usually you
Oh,
liquidate it so cheap, and then the market valuation is fairly cheap, so you can buy them. Take a look at that. Meta, definitely not fun here. Meta at 370, 334. Not a buy here. Can balance at 478, but you're patient. 370, 334. Snow, I think 125 is a great ad. Those are, that's the value of buy. It was a pretty big ad. You wait and you're patient. Market continues to bleed. This would be an excellent zone for a long-term money. All right, guys, we're gonna take a 10 minutes break. I just have to get some water, stretch, and then we're gonna do a class of market profile. So if you're new to it, I suggest you guys stick around. So all these letters that make sense to you and understand how to trade it, what it means, give you an introduction, and then cover setups and the meanings of it. So we'll take a 5-10 minute break, and then we'll continue.
Sorry, Shorty, can I ask you a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, of course I understand the clouds, right? And everything, like a lot of things coming down to the monthly bottom. You really think like, it's, I mean, I guess like you're looking to add to positions. Like you don't think we're just going to get a little bounce and then more downside?
I don't know, but I buy good companies at the monthly bottoms.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
I'll be back in a second. I just gotta get some water, stretch, and then we'll be back to do the class.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Hey guys, I'm back. See. So I'm gonna go a little bit PowerPoint, a little bit live, and then field the questions because this is probably the only way you guys can, I would say, learn is if you see what I'm talking about, and then you guys have to put in some time as well. They just won't come naturally, and they won't come by itself if you're not seeking and constantly, I would say, revisiting what you're learning and applying it. So let's start. Market. We'll start with market action theory a little bit, just to make sure you guys understand what it is and how do you go about it. It's basically like any auction that you've seen, whether it's a car auction or eBay. You know, somebody selling something and you're willing to buy it, and then you have to meet on the price, whether it's the ask, the lowest ask with the highest bid, that usually gives you the transaction. Many folks, right, you can ask for whatever you want in the market in terms of price. Doesn't necessarily mean you'll get the bids. You'll get somebody to match it. Therefore, there's no transaction. And usually when we say that you have passive orders, right, on the tape, you know, at the ask, if that's somebody's willing to sell something at that level, and if you're willing to buy it, then the transaction will occur. And usually on the ask side, you have the passive sells. On the bottom of the bid, right, you have the passive buyers, and usually that's where they buy long-term holds for equities or whatever the instrument you're trading. Market auction is, I would say, the fairest thing that you can have in terms of, you know, finding the value, right? If you do have somebody buying something below the value, price is not going to stay there for a long period of time, and therefore that means you're looking for buyers at lower prices. Somebody go on mute, please. What's it that it's causing static? So when you guys think about the, you know, I guess the graphic between, you know, you're selling something, right? You want some bids to come in to meet that. If you're selling oranges for $3 and I'm offering you $2, there's no transaction. I'm not going to exchange the goods with you till we either find ourselves in the middle, right? Or if your ask is at $3 and you lower it to $2.50 and I increase my bid to $2.50, that's middle ground. You know, both ways, right? We met in between. But if you're trying to get rid of something and you really, really fast sell on the bid side, that usually means, you know, in terms of tape, that, you know, we're seeing some aggression on selling. The whole purpose of the market, right, right now is to facilitate the auctions, facilitate the trades. The short-term traders, right, they seek for fair value. The long-term participants, they look for advantageous prices. So when the price based on the perception of value that they have, which we'll cover here shortly, once they find that, the price doesn't stay there for a long time. And you guys just saw, for instance, Dell, it hit that 69 level and it was the monthly bottom and a lot of buyers were sitting there, boom, that's gone. So the prices at really good levels, those stay long, and that's for the bottom and the top. At the top, you know, if the price is above value, you can expect sellers to show up and try to get rid of it as quickly as they can so they can, you know, monetize as much as they can on the goods that they're selling. In terms of market behavior, I think this is fairly important for a lot of you guys to understand, right? The market goes between balance and imbalance, and it just repeats the cycle. I would say the participants, you know, different time frame participants play a role, right? Once you establish a balance, right, you have some short-term traders, and you might have some long-term traders buying below the extremes of the bracket, like selling at the top, which is probable, buying below, which is also probable, and then you have the imbalance, which is, you know, emotional buying. All the people that didn't buy here, they're going to start doing market orders, buying and selling it till they find some sellers, and then they sell, and then you're coming back. In this case, right, there's only two things the price can do, and that's price can either be accepted or rejected, and a lot of people complicate it, right? So once you break the balance and you're coming back for a revisit, if you do accept the price, right, you're going to defend the previous balance, which means you're not interested in prices lower than that. You believe the fair price of instrument that you're looking at is to go higher, so you expect a bounce here. and that's expected behavior. If it does reject that, there's a high chance it's just going to traverse all of that previous value in search of buyers, right? And typically, as we talk about, you're looking for POC for peeling off. If you're short inside, just kind of like what happened right now with ES and SPY, right? We were in 2024, about 2024 value, and then we lost it. And just on Friday, we tapped the 2024 POC. If they can't hold that 52.46 in the upcoming days, there's a high chance that we're going to be looking for 2024 value area low. At that point, you're looking to see if we find the buyers, right? Can they defend? Can they show you access, which we'll learn a little bit here shortly on market profile, which tells you that there's other time frame participants coming in to buy. So that's how you usually find an end to an auction. Right? And right now, we're definitely not in a bracketed market. We're in a trending down market, but the market is now imbalanced to the downside, right? They believe the price is at lower levels than what we're being offered. Does that make sense? Does this slide make sense to all?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go down. So this another slide here that just helps you guys understand, right? The market goes balance to imbalance. When you go from balance to imbalance, you're trying to see if you agreed on a price here, and now let's say you have an imbalance to a downside. You're trying to see where did we agree on the price before? Was the price agreed up here? If so, you want to make sure how do you behave, at the extreme levels of these balances. And then once the imbalance like we are in right now, you really need to first start looking at monthly framing, or I'm sorry, daily framing, to see if that's going to stop to find some sort of bottom, right? Can we stop the framing down on the daily, the weeklies, the monthlies to start reversing the auction higher? Right now, everything's bearish, right? But we'll see what Monday brings considering the news. And I think that might play a role, right? And I'll go into the live example of what we're talking about. The value, right, on these balances are fairly important, especially if you have longer periods, right? That means the longer the accumulation, the more explosive the imbalance will be, and that's kind of what we're experiencing. Acceptance of the prices, once you leave the area, you're looking to defend that high to make sure that you're rejecting the prices. And rejection is that you're basically getting inside that value, and most likely you're going to traverse to find to the bottom, or opposite is true also on a bullish. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But besides the two slides that I covered on balance, this one is really, really important when you're in the bracketed markets, right? Because there are certain guidelines that you should be living by, trading by when you're in a bracket. And as you guys know, when we look at the value from day to day, it's how are we positioned today compared to yesterday in terms of value. So if we're in a bracketed market, and let's say we're in a D-shaped profile, let's say it's noon, and we're reaching above the value, kind of like what we did Friday when we reached that 93 level, we took a short because we were targeting the value area high as well. Once it came there, we were selling. Of course, we're in a selling trend. The market's trending down. So once they popped there, I took a short targeting 5200s, which was about 90 points away. And it worked out pretty well, right? You're in a trending down market. You're above the value right now. That becomes an opportunity for sellers. Expected behavior above value is responsive, right? Expected behavior is selling. Buying above value on the bracket is not, right? So therefore, that was a pretty easy setup to trade with. And these are, I would say this is a very important slide for many of you because sometimes you guys are initiating longs right above the value and you're selling below the value. And from understanding the market trend, the context of the market, you guys could be on the wrong side of the trade, meaning that you guys are doing opposite of what the market behavior is or what the expected behavior is. So like if you're selling below the value, you're trying to initiate the market and conduct price discovery lower, while the expected behavior is to buy. And that's, if you can grasp this concept, this slide here, and start looking at it, you could literally be trading kind of just the brackets and the extremes. And there's a lot of successful traders that did that, right? Jesse Livermore is one of them, where he traded the extremes and the reversions to the mean. And I would say he did pretty well for himself, right? Was he a little crazy knucklehead? Yes. No, that's just his personal life, but it worked out well for his trading career. Does this slide make sense to all? So there's 4 behaviors, and it'd be good that you guys understand them. I'll probably release the quiz sometimes today around 5, 6 p.m. for you guys to take it. And the quiz will probably cover 90% of the knowledge you guys are going to take. And I'll tell you if you understand it or not in a binary fashion. Any questions?
Yeah, it took me a while to realize this, but I started following it and it definitely made me go from red to green.
Yeah, this is big. For a lot of you guys that are used to our MACDs and all the lagging indicators, you've probably never seen this, but it's very, very important that you understand it, right? RSI and this doesn't have any relationship, but I would rely on this more over anything else. That if I was going to learn anything, it would be this behavior here. Okay. Like we said, in the bracketed market, buyers and sellers, they basically agree on the price, right? When you're in balance, that means we're happy trading. The value is being built here. The locals are happy because the IV is going to drop in a bracketed market, and they're collecting the transactional profits. Balanced market means fair value, and the direction is not set, right? Until you basically pop higher or lower, it doesn't change much. On trending markets, right? And I said something a couple of times last week is that you do not want to exercise a lot of capital to make money in a trending market, especially as volatile as we've had. I sized down quite a bit last week, and it was actually pretty profitable. Some trades we caught close to 90 points, multiple times 50 points, and that's because volatility is there. And you want to size down. You want the volatility to do the work for you rather than the size of your account to be exposed to the market. Trending markets, usually, one side is winning. And in our recent case, is the sellers taking control. And they've been exercising that. Has it slowed down? Maybe Friday. We'll take a look at it on the live charts and I'll point out what I'm seeing. And hopefully it kind of starts to make sense. But when you are trending, the key component to measure the strength of that trend is your values. Right? Are the values just stacking on top of each other or bottom of each other in a downtrend? Is there any overlap? You want to pay attention to if the trend is aging or slowing down. And that's something I look at, from monthly, weekly, and daily perspective, right? On volume and TPOC or market profile to make sure that I'm not missing a picture. And a lot of you guys, I think it's important to distinguish, right? Market profile is based on time, how much time we spent at a price level, and values identified through time spent, while volume profile is how much volume did you spend at that specific time. There's no good answer, which one is better. Time price opportunity is pretty good because it does have different information that it gives us than volume profile, but I use both and I rely heavily in trending markets, I would say, on volume rather than market profile. I do rely on market profile to know where emotional traders got in, like single prints or access on top or bottom, but volume profile is just as equally important. So I don't distinguish or discriminate between time and volume. Hold on 1 second, guys. The little guy just stormed in. 1 second. I apologize. The little guy just stormed in like a cowboy here. Does this make sense? And this is just information more about the behavior of market, balance, imbalance. Is everybody on the same page?
I am.
Any questions from anyone so far?
Shorty,
I do have a question on regards to understanding the concept, but then organizing it to be able to do these strategies. Like, there's so many different ways of looking at this. Would you be covering something like that, that how to get started in order to be able to process all this information, like organize it to be able to trade?
Yeah, certainly. So let's just take a look at SPY, for instance, and we'll start at the highest level and then we'll dip down, right? So for you guys that have, I guess, trading view, right, under indicators, so I think it's, where is it? Here. If you go here and you type in TPO, time price opportunity, that's the market profile. So if you click that, I'm not going to, but it's going to give you this. And then, of course, you can set this up to be, in this instance, it's on a weekly time frame, or you can change it to monthly, right? And then you want to mess with the ticks per row because different instruments are going to have different setups. So I'm going to look at this on the monthly for a second, and then we'll go from there. So let's see what it prints here. I have to increase the tick row size here just a bit. All right, so I think here we got, so here, for instance, if you take a look at, SPY on previous month, this is considered a bracket, right? You have the value area, basically you're stacking the value here, right? So ever since from here, you started shifting the value shifted, a little bit of overlap, and then an outside value, that means you go over the break. You went with the break to the upside, and then you see as we're approaching, all-time highs, you see the value shifting, but overlap. And then this candle here was giving you a lot of warning signs, right? If you break it, but you fail, then most likely you're gonna, probably find some SIGs when you combine all of these. You will get like a cumulative chart, right? And you see from here, you're able to identify where the value is on on volume profile. You could also merge this with the previous profiles where it would combine this into multiple sessions into one, and now I'm able to see, the prior 4-month bracket, which is what we were talking about, the balance. If you crack above this balance and you fail, right, like you did here, it was a pretty good setup that you're most likely going to go all the way to about 590, about 120 points drop, right? And that was pretty clear at one point, especially when you go on the yearly profiles. I'll bring them up so you can see it. They peaked above, but they got no strength to hold it. And now when you look at this, for instance, profile here for, March, there's a lot of liquidation happening, right? They liquidated from the top, they rejected the top value, and now we're basically trying to find where's the prior value, right? So if I merge this one with this one here, I'm trying to see where's the value being built, right? So prior balance that we are in, remember we said here, let's merge this one with the prior, we'll merge all of this. So here's the value, right? If this is the total value, let's say the one that was stacking, so 584 was the low of it, the high is here. They tried to get back in, right? Once they got rejected here, honestly, there was not much to think about rather than, where are you going to stop? Where are you going to stop selling? Because right now they were not interested in trading here. If they were, they would have held this 584 and potentially, bounce there, stop, capture the people that are late and do something like this and drive back. But I think the sellers are liquidating this, and that's kind of evident here. There's no value here at all built. They're building value lower, right? So you see the value stacking to the low side now, and there's a gap here as well. So now that we're inside, the closest value that we have, oops, sorry, that's with anchored VWAP, something else. Just keep looking. So now, the value that we have here goes all the way to 540 with this massive node of time being spent somewhere in this area. So as long as we're below 563 in this case, right? As long as we're below this level here, there's a high chance, right, that we will most likely come back and hold it. But since we rejected this, right? So if I go back 7 days here, what did we say on this value? I mean, you traverse the whole value with 7 days with a full bar candle. They said this is not the value. Then the next thing you got to do, and you can also merge this into quarterlies. I'll merge this one with this one. And it's how you organize it and type of participant you're. So now if I look, okay, well, my other balance that we had in here was basically the 500 all the way down up at 522. So if we don't bounce at this 500, look how much structure do we have below that's supportive of this. If we lose 500, most likely we're going a lot lower, probably somewhere around 450 to this level here, which should probably be the value area high of 458. This is the imbalance that was caused here from this balance. But this is the imbalance move. So we're not going to spend a lot of time, but I would say the 500 level is going to be retested sooner and later. Does that make sense? This was the prior
Yes.
balance that we were looking for. So now if we lose this, the market's in trouble. And even if I grab volume from the top, let's say to the top of this thing, look at the volume here. You see the gaps in volume? Like there's not a lot of structure, and you see that this is coming right to the LVN, to the bottom of it for the value of that run up. And I don't care too much about this one personally, right? But I do think, let me make sure this is not extending. There's not much volume here. It's not like they added a lot. They added some here, and you see that's a small distribution, right? This is a fairly tiny distribution here being set up. And is there a chance that you come back to this one and they offer a bounce? Yeah, but in grand scheme of things, right? This is a pretty big level here. This zone here has some distribution, and if you zoom out, you know, this VRVP on the right is telling me where the volume is, and the volume on the longer picture is sitting right here. This is where they found acceptance last time, and if you just click on this and double click here, you'll be able to see based on volume where's the value. This you can see. So on the volume, it might be slightly different. You see that, you know, there's not a lot of volume traded compared to the prior level that we had, you know, from 99. There's a lot of volume here. We're in a huge accumulation, and it could be, right, when you look at this, so this was the balance that we were in, and this was the break, and we've actually never been on revisit to this break. And I know it's far away, and it's crazy to think that, you know, eventually one day we might witness a drop like this, but I wouldn't say it's not doable. I would just say it's not maybe probable right now, but it's definitely doable. So I look for basically on TPO or PVP, which is the same concept of value. Trying to find the PVP one. It's the same concept of trying to find where's that value. And TPOs just tell us how much time did they spend at a specific level. If I go here, okay, look at this. Deleted it. So for instance, here's the, you know, the monthly profile here, copy here from my other charts. So if you take a look, that's our, you know, I would say this is your 2024 profile, and you see, you know, when we went above it here, we're trying to build value right above that 2024. And then you see here that first of all, there's warning signs we talked about a few times, is that there's a lot of value area that's fairly tight. You know, you're talking about minimal value area, which also tells you a lot about the auction, right? If the auction has a lot of participants, I would say the value area is going to be much wider than that. And if you look at 2024, right, we're looking at, you know, value area right on the bottom here sitting at 48.95 for the value area low. This doesn't look right.
Shorty, yeah, you might not care, but your value area is 70, not 68.
Yeah, but it was just the default.
Yeah, no, I know.
So it would change, right? Once I change it, and then you look here about 48.60 for the symbol value area low, which is most likely the level that we are interested in as a long-term participants, right? So we obviously rejected this value on the top, and that was a clear sign when you look here. This was your value area high here of 2024, this black line at the top. And you can see how it played out. They came here once, they struggled, they broke above it, and they dipped inside of it, and then they basically gave you, hey, this is most likely not the acceptance, right? They had a little bit of LVN that they needed to protect here. And whenever you have an LVN, which would be single principal market profile, they're looking for prices lower. And now you see, for instance, here, this is a pretty big, I would say, distribution here, right? Here would be a decent distribution. If they're not able to reclaim that, right, there's a high chance that we're most likely headed towards this level. So not saying that this is definitely a bounce, but if news line up, this is a bounce level right here from this HVN on 2024 profile. Remember, I'm on volume profile, but they didn't, they spent more time here than they did here and so on. So volume profile on market profile probably show the same, similar. But this is a big level. So if they can't hold this, guys, the odds are that you would visit the opposite extreme. And that's the rule. If you fail at the top of one, most likely 80% of the time, you're going to explore the value all the way to the opposite extreme, which would be 48.63. And, if you have puts, longer dated puts, I would look to close it probably in this area right here. So somewhere around this area, I'll be looking to cut it down and see. And then if you look to the left, you can see here, that was potentially a nice rejection at one point, all-time highs. So now this would be a pretty good retest, and now be very careful being short in this area, 48.60 or whatever this low is, 48.05. Not a level to initiate short. Does that make sense? Bullfrog?
Yes, thank you. Now, the other thing is, which one sets precedence? Market profile or volume profile?
They serve different purpose, right? That's what I answered earlier. They're definitely different, right? One tells you where it's a lot of volume, right? Where did they acquire the stock? And one tells you, right, how much time did you spend there? Typically, if I was to change this, right, let me change it to monthly here and increase it to about, for purpose of this demonstration, 22. I'll change this guy to be 12. Let me change this TPO. A lot more. See if it fits out a profile for us, and I'll show you how to kind of look at it, at least assess the loading. Do auto work better. And it's only me, but my trading view has been super slow. At this point, I think I'm just losing the purpose of this on TPO. So usually I find what's suitable in terms of picks, but what it tells you, right, is if you have, I would say 80% of the time or even higher, the market profile and volume profile levels are going to be a few points apart, right? Just the way it's calculated, one is using, and you see here, this is TPO value area high, volume profile is sitting right here. So on a yearly profile, 23 points is a minimal spread on the difference. And then you see the value low here, they're fairly close, right? So I wouldn't say necessarily a big difference, but one tells you how much time spent in that area, and the other one confirms if the volume was spent, right? The price is used for discovery. What is time used for? You have price, time, and volume. What do you think the three components make up?
how much time
An
was spent in that
opportunity.
area.
Okay. And volume is used for what? What would you guys classify the volume? What is it important for?
The effort,
Yeah, I think this slide might have it here.
participants.
Yeah, so in time validates price, right? If you're accepting the price, right, you're going to spend time there. If you go quickly to a level that it's advantageous to something and you quickly bounce from it, that opportunity might not knock on a door 2 times, right? And a simple form, time also regulates the market because, right, we open at 9:30 and close at 4. If you miss that window, most likely you're not going to get an opportunity. Volume is the one that confirms the option. So if you're moving away from balance to unbalance, you need the volume to confirm it, right? If there's no volume as you're auctioning, right, from between key levels, most likely it's a fade or a peak above or peak below and fail. And those are, I would say, really, really the 3 components that make up the value. Price, time, and volume equals value. So you can't disagree or discount time or volume because you do need to understand both of those, right, along with price discovery to see price went above the value, but it wasn't accepted, and we got a quick access on the top, and volume was high. Well, that means that as soon as we went above the value, there was a long-term participant selling. He left the access tail, right, selling tail on the top. Therefore, and volume confirms it with a lot of shares being sold at the top. That would be a good confirmation of rejection, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, it does. The other thing too is to be organized with it. Just mark the levels and see if at those levels what it does, if it rejects or accepts, and then just watch it from there.
Exactly.
Thank you.
That's the right way to look at it. And the higher time frame participant you are, let's say, we're talking about stocks that you want to acquire. You can certainly do that on all the other ones, right? Any stock that you have. So let's say Tesla, right? We take a look at Tesla here, and you see here, what is it doing, right? Well, it's in a bracket. It's in a bracket for 4 years now. And if you take a look here, this was the bracket they were in. And we went above the bracket here. And, if I turn on the volume, hide this guy because it looks awful here. Then you pay attention to like, hey, what's going on? So for instance, this candle here, what is it telling you? You went above the value on this candle, and what happened?
Rejected.
And the volume definitely increased, but you didn't make higher highs, right? I mean, you made higher highs, but then you see the candle, the body of the candle is very, very small, but increase in volume is probably telling you there's some stopping volume, meaning somebody's selling. They're not letting the price go. Okay. So when you went above the bracket, they showed up. Somebody's willing to sell quickly, and look what happened to price. I'm on 7 days. From that level, I mean, it went down and cut in half, more than half, right? They probably lost 60% here. And that's kind of on a longer term what you pay attention. So 55% loss from that point on. You peaked above this, but you're not able to sustain and hold, which is telling you we're rejecting prices higher. And now, what is the potential here? Well, maybe we're going to go back to 100. But what I typically would do in this case is I would find out what is that bracket telling me, right? A lot of brackets, will give you the first standard deviation by default, and that one falls to be, for instance, on this one is 272, and the bottom of it is at 168, kind of the level that we just talked about briefly earlier on what do you call it, on Tesla. If it goes to this area, this is not a bad long. So think about the bracket that we talked about. Anytime the price goes below it, it's quickly snatched up. Here when initially the bracket was set, they came here and sold. Then within 68% of the volume that was sitting here, once they dipped here, right, you see this. We went below, they reclaimed it, and then they went to the opposite extreme. They actually tagged the top. They did exactly what we were just talking about. Then they lost it. Now they're at the POC. So the cumulative POC is sitting, right at, what is this, 244. So if they lose 244, I would say there's very high odds that we're going to be a 170, 168 area. trading. Wouldn't be surprised if we go below this, right? And then reclaim it, and that becomes a really good long.
Mm.
Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let me go back to market profile. So I think we covered quite a few concepts, right? Just information-wise on market profile. What I think we should do next is kind of help you understand, right, what is market profile. I think we covered that, right? It's basically a graphical representation of price, volume, and time. So volume is the SVPs that we use. Like I said, market profile was developed by Peter in 1980s. And for the people in the Discord, I do have the class actually that he taught to CBOE 1985, 1986. So I will release all the tapes to you guys, and Drew can put the password on it just so it stays within the Discord. Please don't misuse it, right? Use it for your own purpose, but you're gonna hear it from the guy that invented it. I don't think many people can say that, right? That you have something that a person invented and you're hearing them. You're gonna hear Peter teaching the floor traders how to use market profile and what it's telling them. I don't think there's value on that piece because it was cassette tapes that I converted to digital formats and I passed it on to you guys. So I'll share the rest of the video, the audio tapes, and you guys can have the full pack. And he does have one tape that's tips and tricks on market profile, and I think that would be a gold to listen to once you understand the market profile itself. The purpose of market profile is, right, to identify the value areas, market balance, and then participation in the behavior. Market profile in itself is not a future teller or a past teller. It's actually a present graphical representation of what the market's doing right there and then, right? And it's not a strategy, but it does have setups that you can play off of it. So TPOs, let me bring up the chart. So for each one of these, I'm just going to go on smaller time frame on ES so we can look into it. Here, this. Where's my PVP? I'm going to hide this guy. Get 30 minutes. And market profile, you look at on regular trading hours, while volume profile, you can look at them both. If you're going to pick and stick with one, just stick with RTH for both. I do look at volume profile on ETH, but don't get yourself confused. If you're not comfortable with it, then just use one. Let's see what this, man, it has been super slow for me. The trading. You don't necessarily need candles when you're analyzing this, and now it's broken down. So I'm going to start here and kind of introduce it, right? So each one of these letters, does anyone want to take a guess that hasn't been exposed? What does this represent, the A period?
First half an hour.
Yeah, so each letter or block represents 30-minute period. So you can customize it, but the default is 30 minutes, right? And it just basically tells you where the price traded. So we know, for instance, if we were to break it down now and look at it, we can find out what is the A high, right? So the A high would be kind of right here. So if you're to market, A traded between 53.15 and this level right here at the bottom. And that'll be your kind of orbs, right? It'll be opening range high and opening range low in 30 minutes. And then you see the B period, right? There was a lot of evidence, right, how you could trade this. You know, typically you're looking for, I would say, 50% retracements on these to understand if it's framing. And see here, the B period encroached above it, and then you see the D period came right to the 50% and kind of rejected, right? But each period represents 30 minutes. So if I was to turn on the candles, there'll just be one candle for each block. Does that make sense? So far, so good?
Yes.
Yep. So when
Yes.
when it's not going above the 50%, in this case, right, it failed. That means the periods are framing down, right? There's a strong chance that we're going to continue the trend down. And then you can see, for instance, you know, on the next one, the C period definitely framed. And then you see the D period cracked. And then I would anticipate, right, if you're able to crack below the D here, you're going to look for lower prices. And look how well, you know, I would say that played, right? So here you came, you cracked it, and then basically the rest of the day after you spent everything below this 5201. So that means every period was below it, and then you see, right, A periods 9:30 to 10, 10:30, 9:30 to 10 is A, then 10 to 10:30 is B, and so on for these periods, right? But the framing of them is, did you retrace 50% of the prior one? If that makes sense. The concepts on TPO are very similar to market profile, so I'll show you here. You do have value area high, if you guys look at it here. So this is the value area high. This tells you where, in my case, 68% of the price was traded within this area, right? So if I go here, click the right things. So this is where I would say between this area, value area high and value area low, based on time alone, right? 68% of time price spent in here. What does that tell you? Well, it tells you that they are finding value, still very bearish because the value is shifting, right? So pay attention to this green zone. It was here, tight value area here, then they sold off, and you see that they're finding value. Still very bearish, but they're finding value inside this day. They peaked below it, and then if you look on the bottom, right, we did have something, interesting that happened here. Does everybody know what happened?
The spike.
Yep. So you did have a spike here that we have to carry forward, right? I won't get into spike now, but I'll get here shortly, is that each period has to be verified by the following period. So A is verified by B. That's why I said is it framing down. And then there's something about the M period, because that's the 3:30 to 4 p.m. That's the last period of cash session. Usually when that period makes a lower low compared to all other periods, in this case, period K was the lowest period, correct? So when the M period breaks that, that means we had a spike, okay? So if this is the base spike here, this would be our base spike, right? That means we need to know on Monday or at 9:30, how do we treat this level? If we auction, let's say, we start opening below it, and this would be the spike end, just before I go away. Basically, your previous day low on spike, bear spikes, this is spike end. Previous day low. So there's only certain concerns and setups that you play, and these levels become pivotal for us for Monday, right? And I'm going to care for them. Let's say we, open here in this area and then go up here. This becomes the support, and we're looking for the next levels up, right? You're looking to see if this is going to be rejected by the following auction, right? And that'll be on Monday. If we can erase this late spike, meaning we reject it, that this late spike that came in during the late of the day is being rejected, that means they're going to try to get inside the value here, 51.25. And if they're able to cover this value here, don't be surprised if you see probably the halfback and the value area high being tapped. And I know it's crazy, 100 points, but we're kind of used to it for the past couple of days, right? Where it's just 100-point bounces everywhere or drops. Does that make sense on spikes? What that means?
What level are you marking there for 51.25? What is that you're marking?
That's value area low. That's the
Sorry.
value area low. If you take a look at it right here, you see it. Value area low for that day is sitting right here. That just means that 68% of the time was spent here, and you see the volume as well. So, and here's your market volume profile, right? You see the value area low matches. So if you're able to crack that, then you have something called 80% in play, and most likely, you would go somewhere in this zone here. Okay. So this is the piece of, does everybody understand the spike? Does everybody understand the letters? Are they intimidating? Or each period, each letter is part of a 30-minute segment. Okay. So he just asked, what are we targeting? So this was just the value area, right? I'm trying to see if we can get inside this value. This is the value area low. This is where, it's part of the 68%, right? Volume profile slightly higher, and the value area low is, kind of the same. So if we can reclaim this, and you basically open below it, let's say we open here, and then we reclaim this level, and then we drive this to value area high. This in between sets up for an 80% rule, which means that if you can reclaim this value area low, there's 80% chance that you're going to explore the top of this value. And this is where you're not willing to initiate longs. You're looking for peak above fails, and then you can drive this to POC. If it's weak there, then you're driving it back, and that would mean that it's a bracketed market, maybe a 2-day balance being set up. But they got to reject the bottom. This is not access on the bottom. This is a spike at the bottom. Okay. What does IB mean? Does everybody understand that?
Initial balance.
Initial balance.
Yeah, so that is our initial balance. And what that means, if we go here and I split this, it's basically your first 1 hour of trading, which would be your letters A and B. So if you look here, this is our A high, right? And you see this little black line on the left is going to find that. And also this indicator that we use, initial balance, it'll point it out and it'll highlight it. From there, you can find out whether initial balance, this dotted line is 1.5. Initial balance 2.x is sitting at 51.17. And then, of course, you have a trend, confirmed trend day below the IB2X. All the way to IB3X is at 5,019. So typically when, let's say we peak above setups, right, failed IB auctions, let's say on Friday, if we went in C period here and we failed here to hold 30 minutes above and we failed, that sets up a really good setup that you're going to go to the bottom of IB at least. If you stay here below it, then most likely the following day or 2-3 days, you're going to clean up that IBL of that day in upcoming days. That would just signify the price was not accepted above the IB, and most likely you're going to explore the opposite. So IB is the first 1 hour, which is your A and B periods here. And typically, when the C period comes in and it breaks that, right, in this case, C period broke, there's very high odds that you're just going to continue in the trend of C period. And see here, we broke above it, and then you continued even more. You had some bounces, but eventually you just built value to the lower side. If this was the value that they are creating, intraday right here, send it. If this was the value that they're creating here, you see how they set it up. They're building the value, they peaked above it, then the M period came and they went away from it. And that's when the spike was initiated. So now if they can reclaim this, high odds that, they will at least visit 150, 152 from 26 to 52, that's 25 points. Not bad at all. And you have a spike to value to this value, so you have some points to play. But ultimately, 80% rule would play out, I would say, in this type of setup here, especially with short cover rally, maybe people positioning themselves on the short side a little bit on the wrong location, and we could see that. Because remember, we're not far from 2024 POC, which is sitting right here, 52.46. So TPOC, POC is called TPOC, time POC. And in this case, you guys see that, it matches very nicely here between volume and time. So 51.73, right, will be big. If we open above this, let's say tomorrow we gap up, there's very high chance that you're going to go 52, and then potentially this 52.46 to this area would be revisited right here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. When we say highs and lows of a day, that just basically is what's the high of the day, like this one, and what is the low of the day? That would be the range day, right? Range of a day. And then you have the IB inside of it, right? Which is where 68% of the volume or time spent occurred. So people are, I would say a lot of people are like, oh, what does market tells you? Well, it really tells you a lot more than what the regular candlesticks would tell you here, right? If you look at 30-minute candlesticks here, versus market profile, it gives you a different fractal view. And it also tells you a lot about acceptance of value. If you just look at these, let's say 3-4 candlesticks on 30 minutes, you wouldn't know much. But now when we look at the whole day, you're able to know where, based on the bell curve, right, where's the first standard deviation of time, and it tells you, oh, it's here. So that means inside here, we are accepting the price. So if I reclaim this tomorrow, you want to be careful short, because there's a high chance they're going to explore higher. And I would say from market profile, it really gives you opportunity to anticipate what could be coming. Doesn't mean you have to be predicting, but you could react to what potentially the setup is. If we reclaim, if I gave you just the candles here and I'm telling you, hey, you're reclaiming this level here, 51276, what does that tell you in base of candles? Does it give you much? This level here would mean nothing to you based on candles. If I hide these, right, and I hide this, and I tell you, yeah, reclaim this right here, and we have a high chance to rip, what, 120 points, would you believe me? Just off of candles, would you believe it? Probably not. But once you put a little bit of structure around it, right, and you look at it this way, then it kind of makes sense, right? So I would definitely pay attention to that. And then also in market profile, there's something called single prints, right? On the top, when you see the A periods by itself, it doesn't have a friend next to it until this level here. Right here is where it starts. This is called access high. What that means is that there was a lot of other time frame participants and they rejected the price. They opened here, they went higher, and then they basically slammed it down, which means other time frame participants found what at the higher levels.
Less buyers, more sellers.
Yeah, you found access. You found a supply of inventory that somebody's willing to let go. And they let it go, right? So once you met the access, you met the suppliers, they gave it to you, and the buyers were not able to push and keep buying because I guess the access was pretty strong. And then you have some 2 periods here between B and D. D is called Europe, right? Because Europe closes on the D period at 11:30. So usually people pay attention to that based on the ones that monitor, I would say, the regional uh, markets, right? Whether it's Chinese, Asian, or whatever the markets are, D period is considered Euro closed. So just keep that in mind. Not the most important thing to have, but it does mean Euro closed in D period. Okay, so access is on top, meaning unfair high, and unfair high means the price went too high, right? And the sellers were met. Remember, if you're a seller, you're in interest to sell something above value, and that's when you find access and these single prints, you want to be aware of this level. And I typically mark these if you've seen me, do something like this, and I mark it as unfair high. And this is a pretty good resistance point for, let's say, tomorrow, right? I don't know where we're going to open, but I would think we're going to have a small gap up potentially based on the news that I've been seeing. So if they gap through here, let's say we reject the value and we open that, maybe they can gap to, 5,300, right? It's just a speculation, but this is a resistance level when you're below it, because that's where aggressive sellers stop the auction higher.
Sure,
Does
I
that
have a
make sense?
question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any tips or tricks that you outweigh more than other, like a higher percentage? Like for example, on Friday, how I know you say when A or B has an access, it usually holds, and then
That's correct.
also the chance of if it doesn't spend 30 minutes, it's gonna visit the opposite extreme. So you have both of those on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one that you would weigh more heavily than the
No,
other?
no, but I do take logical stance on what is happening in the market, right? And that confirms one or the other, or maybe both in the same direction, right? For instance, the IB set here, we explored it all, we went to IB 2x. There's high chances you're accepting lower prices, right? So those are, I would say, pivotal in terms of, I would say, statistical knowledge and statistical breakdown. That one makes sense, right? Those make sense. But then when you look at this day, is this a lowercase profile, lowercase b, or what is it?
More of a lowercase b.
More of a lowercase b, but it could, it looks pretty balanced, right? It looks a little bit skewed. If you were
Yeah.
to flip this and put it in a bell curve, it could be a type of a D shape too, right? It's not like it went out too far and the majority of value was built on the bottom, something like this. If it look like this, that's a clear liquidation. I'm not saying this is not, but we didn't close too far from the value, right? So if they reclaim this is highly possible tomorrow, and that's another statistical right? For this day, 80%. We are not far from value where the value was built. So it could be used as a trap for late bears here. And you have a spike, so we have really good reference for market profile to play it. And when you have a normal day, right, I would say this is close to, it is a selling day where we open and closed. But the profile itself is, it could have been worse, right? Longer liquidation here, more skewed to the bottom. This one is fairly balanced, right? IB, and then we're in here. So if it's a normal day, symmetrical balanced profile day, that's where you can, I would say, you want to look for tomorrow, maybe we buy the bottom of this tomorrow, value area low if we're given, and we sell the top of it, right? And that's what you do on typical days. Normal days, you do that. Double distributions, right? I would say that they're actually also fairly easy to play. So when you do have a double distribution day, and I think we've had some here recently. So there's one right here, kind of like a triple distribution. When you look at it, there's a distribution being set up on the top, right? And it helps you to identify these days potentially what it could run into. It looks like here, and then you have a nice set of single trends here separating the two, and this is the value, right? So now if the buyers couldn't reclaim this value, the market's telling you clearly, hey, we're looking for lower prices. And of course, we haven't been able to clean that. And then this was the lower distribution of that day, right? So if you can't get acceptance inside of this one, which, they got inside, if you guys remember this 2 days, and they rejected it, right? So if you only paid attention to this 2-day balance for the time being, this would be a good potential setup. And you see here where they stopped. They stopped here 57.67, and that was kind of like the top of the bracket. So if they could get price above this, clean this, that would mean they rejected the lower prices were going higher, but they did the opposite. They came here, we auctioned to it, and then we fell from here. And of course, the rest would be historical. But the date types, when you have a double distribution, that means we agreed on one value and then you disagree, and now you're trying to find the next value, and it all happens in the same day. Trend days, right? That would be your P shapes, right? It's going to be thin profiles. They're going to be elongated. And usually that's going to show, I would say, a strong directional performance, right? And of course, we've had quite a few of those. We can go here. So if you take a look at this one, you opened, not a lot of time spent on the bottom, a lot of it spent on up top, and you see them continue. And then, of course, this is a second example of it. This is called the long liquidation profile right here. You have a lowercase b, not a lot of time spent, and then they liquidated the long. They got trapped on the long side, and these guys just offered a prices much lower. And same thing happened here as well. So normal day, double distribution, and then you have trend days, a P shape and a lowercase b. Lowercase b means you're liquidating, and P usually means a short cover rally, especially when you're in a downtrend and you get a P, right? That usually will kind of indicate that there's potentially a short cover rally might be coming in, right? And now let me find where we are. Okay, so we're in this profile right here. So I would say this is more of a D shape. So tomorrow's open is going to be fairly important. I would not be surprised if they trap some long shorts tomorrow where they crack this, reclaim that spike base, this, and then do this. I would not be surprised if we see that. FYI. So does everybody understand what access means? It could be selling or buying tail. In this case, on the bottom, it's not necessarily access to buying tail, because it is, end period you don't really look for on TradingView, because that's just the settle period, which marks the settle price for us right here. I do have a template, I believe, for that, maybe not. So this is the settle price, which means this is where we close at 415. And typically the way we use settle prices, if the price like overnight tonight at 6 p.m. is trading above it, that means that net participants net inventory is long. If you're below it, that means you're short. And usually they rebalance it, meaning if you're net long, when we open the cash session, they're going to look to rebalance to scare those overnight longs. bring it back to balance, and then they could rip, or the opposite is true as well, right? If they go net short, they might scare them away, come back, rip, and then short as well. Does that make sense so far?
Do you typically use that as a level, or is that like a reference point or something?
It's a reference point to know how the overnight traded. Is it all inventory net long or net short?
Got it. Thanks.
And typically, let's say tomorrow, just giving you a scenario, how you could play it. Let's say we do this setup here, we go above value, and then we, get some selling here, and you lose this level. This is not a bad level to short, and it would be a reversion to the mean, which would be the POC. And you're looking to short from here to here and potentially here. Just I would close always some at the POC. POC itself is not like the best spot to initiate a lot of trades, especially on a short term, the day to day. Sure, it can be a VPOC, right, where it's untested POC. And if that's the case, and I think in here that would be this is a VPOC for tomorrow. If we reclaim this 25, well, to 73, that's 50 points. I would think a lot of people would take profits there, and the price might drop down a little bit before it decides if it wants to go above it or not. So it's not a spot to necessarily initiate heavy positions unless you're on a longer time frame. I do use it for stocks, like 2-3 year POC. When it hits, I tend to be there to acquire it because it's kind of like a volume accumulation. You accumulate it over 4 years at this price, which means it's a fair price. That's what POC means. So I don't mind buying at the POCs, especially if the value area low is fairly close to it. That gives you a little bit more higher odds, right? They can peak below, reclaim, and then continue going. So usually if I short here, my first target is POC, and then second target value area low. The more narrow, the narrower the value area, the higher chances that it's going to be explored completely. So for instance, this one here, on Friday is this is pretty wide, guys, for a normal, right? 100 points is a pretty wide value area. So would I wait for all of this to be explored? Yeah. If we play 2 MES, right, you can trim one here, leave one, move the stop slightly above so that way you can't lose, and see if it gives you an opportunity, to play out the whole 80%. And that 80% might pay you quite a bit on 2 MES on 100 points, right? It's not bad. You can minimize your risk, and you're not risking a lot depending on the spike where we do with this. You could hide right below it and play this. That makes sense. Whenever you're in a bracket like this, you want to fade the extremes, right? When they pop above and lose, that's where you want to fade them and drive POCs. POC reversion, I think I beat that one to death. If you do this, your POC is the first target. That's just called a POC reversion. People like Jesse Livermore, that's what they lived off of. Peter, that's what they lived off of, right? At that time, price, fades here, they reject. They see no value found here, no buyers found, not new blood found here. Might be a short cover rally. Buyers that got it there. Once they lose this, typically POC is a very, very good price level to target. What questions you guys got so far in market profile?
So not a question, Shorty, but Bitcoin is dumping right now.
Oh, nice. I gave you guys level for it. I don't know if you guys remember, but it has a long ways to go. I gave you guys, I believe, 63, if I remember. That has long ways to go. I'm talking about they can dump. I think we said 20-something thousand points.
Don't you think, though, like futures will follow suit?
I don't think they're directly related personally, but the market hasn't shown that. So here, this is the first level that they're going to tap here shortly. So you have 76, and then ultimately you guys are, they're going right here. 67. 67 was the level. That's where we're headed. Doesn't matter who's buying what here. 67 will be the next level that you guys are getting here. That's my POC on that. Yeah, so this is where they're headed right now. And in a short, in a very short window, I would say by Q4 of this year, you guys will be able to buy the 50s. I told you guys that 102 was my target, the extreme target, somewhere around here for it, and that was simply off of the fibs, if I recall. I think we used something like this. See what if I remember, I don't trade this much. 200%. I think it was 102 that we had for some reason, and that was I would not initiate any longs here. But yeah, this should be going a lot lower. I don't think this will gain much momentum there. So we covered, let me make sure I covered all of it here. So this file, I would say, this slide here, we covered, the selling tail occurs on the top. Another concept, I guess, I did forget is the pour high, pour low. Make sure you guys are following that. That is a nasty daily candle. We had 30 minutes. We had 4 lows somewhere around here. Yep, there. So whenever you have two periods that equal, meaning that the structure on the price stops at the identical level, like you did here, H and I are, this is considered a poor low, means the auction was not finished with a clear winner, and the auction did not finish with a clear winner, and most likely that they're going to come back and fix it, right? So if they do go far away from it, right, they will come back and clean this up, and we look to see, if they clean it up, regain it, and then it gives you an opportunity to go along. But until then, let's say here, you can see if this was the high of the day for this, for this day right here. This was the high of the day, and you see the next day they went to the high. They got a little bit of excess. How you could have traded this is if this is our, let's say, value area high of that day right here, 56.16, right? If that's the case, once they break that level, you get inside here, you could probably manage this trade where you take this short, or you have this value area low as well. So it did create a nice low zone, as we call it. When you have the stacked value area lows and value area highs, you can see bigger. For instance, this would have been a decent short, right? Once you're able to crack this zone here, you could potentially take this short, let's say here, you crack below the value area low and you could manage it. You have, if you do take this, like right here, and you hide behind the axis, which whatever was given, whatever period it was, it looks like you would have been okay. And you target that poor low. This is 2 to 3 trade. It's not a bad risk to reward between the 2 days. So it's definitely doable and manageable, right? Even if you hit this, behind the high of the day of the 2 days, it would probably lower your risk, right? A reward 1.77. So 2 to 1 on a balanced day is not bad, right? On a trend days, you do want a little bit more, but this is not a horrible trade to take on. And you target the poor lows, they fix it, reclaim it, you want to close it, and this was basically a 4-day balance being built here.
Shorty, how did you find that zone between 5616 and 5606? Can you explain that again?
Yeah. So if you take a look here, right, this was a zone where they balanced, right? So if you look right here, they balanced from here, and then you see this profile, they gap down, and this is the value area low of that day, right? So if you can regain that value, that means you're willing to trade, you found some buyers, and if this was access or not, let's find out. So you have access on the bottom here, which is telling you that you found some buyers. So if they found the buyers here, and then you see this 5605, if you can't reclaim this zone, that means you're rejecting the prices still. And then this day here, you had the value area high, which is the dotted line. So that zone, you have 2 stacked. I'm treating this as if I didn't know this day, right? If I don't know anything to the right, I know that this zone here is going to decide the acceptance or rejection of the value. Because this is the value area high and this is the value area low. That's where they're fighting over. Like, hey, for this day, this is value area high. For this day, it's value area low. So they went below this day and this zone, but they left a poor low, which means they're going to come back and revisit and fix that. And then here, if you look at the zone, they went above it, and it doesn't seem like they found buyers, and opposite, right? They found access high, they found some sellers here. So once you crack this zone, let's say you cracked it on this zone here, you can find the access, whatever that was, and this day it was right here where I had it. You could hide behind that. You crack this and hide there. That's not a bad return. But I usually look for stacked value zones like this to basically create little zones. And you could do that a few times here as well. So take a look at this one here. You have value area high, and a value area low, which is more, I would say, built for upfront, right? You have a lot of protection here. So look at this zone. So now pay attention, right? So you're auctioning, you dip below it the next day, right? You open above the close, so there's a tiny gap. You went higher, and then 3 days later, you try to get inside here. But look at the low of this day here, like in this range, the POC, the low of the day, they came back to the bottom and they rejected it. So they're clearly telling you about this value. We are not interested in this value. We want the value to go higher, and then you see what they did. They went higher. They had a massive gap. They tried to get inside this selling, right? They tried, and you can usually use the halfbacks of this and see if they get close above it, if they accept it. And then ultimately, this value here, look how they reacted to it. They came back inside. They couldn't hold the gap, went to the bottom of this one, bounced, and they're not getting any acceptance in this zone here. Does that make sense? But I use these value area highs and lows to look for stacks like rejection zones. Just like this one here, if you take a look for 2 days, your value is shifting lower. Your value area high shifted almost to the POC, to the fair price, and this one is to the lows. So, if you can get acceptance inside this value here, and maybe even the single print area, this will be good for you, right? So let's say you peek inside and you fail, right? If you lose the zone, that becomes a pretty good short all the way probably here to the bottom. This case, right? It would be a massive gap. So this zone is, I would say, fairly important zone for. I mean, just take a look at it here. If they can reclaim the zone, it would mean a lot to the bulls. They spent lower time. They spent a lot of time here. If you extend it, you can treat this massive zone at the top from all-time highs to here. Zone 1, zone 2, and now extend it and see. Nice holding, and there's a little bit of overlap of the next value, but something like this. So let's say they reclaim this, whatever this level is, 51.36. Maybe they're interested in trading, inside of this one right here. So something like this, if it makes sense, on a higher time frame. So now you have 3 levels. If you're being accepted here, here, or here. Right now, this was a narrow one, this was long, and you see the next zone for value, pretty wide. Say this is the area right here. You have some time here to distinguish and set up the value. This was just imbalance, so they can quickly drop here to 48.06, which is also what the clouds were showing earlier as well. So that 4,800 level is going to be pivotal here. Does that make sense? So the poor lows and poor highs, typically, when you have a poor high, price will naturally go away from it at first. And then you're looking for a price level to get in, like let's say on the high side, if they had a poor low, see if they can find any. Okay, it looks like there's one here. So let's say this is the poor low right here. You guys see that there's 2 TPOs. As long as they're less than 2 TPOs, so even if there was another period here, J-box was right here. If it's 1 here, and let's say K is by itself, that's still considered a poor high. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It needs to have more than 2 TPOs to be considered access. That means that auction completed successfully. So let me look for one that has only 2. Okay, this one right here, is this a poor high?
Yes.
This is a poor high. It only has one TPO on the top, and it leaves a reference point. At some point, they're gonna clean it up. So if you guys go, what is this? Have we revisited? We haven't revisited, but this is a daily, right? If you're gonna pay attention to this much time, then you might want to switch to weekly time frame and see if that's gonna happen, right? But typically, if you have a D shape and you have a poor high or poor low, typically they will be revisited sooner or later because D shapes don't have that wide balance, as you would have on the trend day. So it's just something to pay attention to. Here's another poor low here on this profile, and that one got repaired immediately. Here, another poor low right here, it got fixed, and you can see then the value shifted clearly there. When you have single prints in between, right? Find some double profile clip like this one here. When you have single prints in between, that's a really, really good setup that I like to play, and it becomes very, very easy to trade it, right? So, for instance, if this is the close right here, they closed here, they opened, they closed above the bottom distribution. So what you're looking for is, are they gonna accept the prices at the top or at the bottom? The next day, obviously, you closed here. The next day, you open below, right? Which means that you're rejecting the top action. But then you also had a little bit of what? On this day, you had access on the bottom. You also had access at the top. So look what they're doing now, right? So they're telling you, hey, we tried up top, we got rejected. And then they also tried, lower, but they found buyers pretty much at the access here. They're accepting prices for now here. They dipped lower and they basically closed inside. So what could you anticipate the next day? Most likely they're going to target to reach the opposite side. Does that make sense, or I'm just talking too fast?
Makes sense.
It does.
Yep. So here you have distribution. You closed very close to the high of it. The next day you went lower, right? But ultimately you closed at the top. And then of course, sometimes when they get stuck, they like to use this gap feature and they gapped over the whole thing. And you'll see, following the text, look at this. They came back into that range. They failed and ultimately they tested the bottom and even lower distribution that was set up here. And on weeklies, I mean, it changes the picture, I would say, drastically. So we'll take a look at it here. So here's, for instance, the weekly that we got now. Trying to put it into one screen. Okay. So here's your weekly profile, right? You have a liquidation profile here. Then you have, I would call this just a fat profile with access and a poor low, which is telling you, to be careful on this 3-week run. Remember when I was telling you guys that, they're moving fairly slow and there was not a lot of what? What is this telling you between the value areas, how they're stacked and the width of the value area?
A lot of participants, no long term.
Right. Short term.
That's correct. The short terms are in control. And then remember, I told you multiple times, and again, when you have a liquidation profile like this one, you want to pay attention to the extremes of this. You have the value area high, the value area low. Take a look what happened. What did they do? This is your weekly profile. This is the one that initiated the selling, right? That broke down this balance. They came to the extreme of that and they perfectly rejected it. And it's also a halfback of that week and they rejected. And then they built, they tried to build value below. Remember, I posted a chat. In the chat, I posted a description of everything I saw here. Does anyone recall that? I don't know how to find it. I would. Yeah, I don't know how to find it.
There's a search option.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I just don't know how to find it quickly with the indexing. Let me see. I do have a screenshot somewhere. Oh, here, I got it. Let me see.
My God, Shorty, you have a memory like a steel trap.
So do you guys remember this is the same period that I'm showing you guys here. You see it? It's the same candles, guys. Same everything. And I'm telling you, value area high, 2 weeks spent below March 1st week, value no access found. I was telling you that this bounce, we didn't find what? Where we bounced from, we
Find
didn't
like
find.
long-term traders.
Yeah, we didn't have any long-term buyers. So that's where I highlighted, 2 weeks spent below the March 1st week, no access found. Most likely you're going to revisit. The only bullish thing that we had was here. And I highlighted that. And that was because the value area high right here was pretty high. We were there, right? But the only problem is that we closed on the opposite side, right? So the value area it didn't shift on the sell-off. And that's what I wrote, right? No, the weekly I did not shift down even with the sell-off. This is the only thing that was bullish for them, but we closed way below it. So what we had to do is we had to reclaim the levels here, right? If you can reclaim at that point, we had this, somebody asked me, how do I find those levels? Well, let's take a look. So if you look at this area right now, you have the value area low of this first week of March right here and multiple, and then you have this zone right here. If I can reclaim this, what am I probably, positioned for? Probably positioned to rip it all the way to 58.38. And if you could not reclaim this zone right here, you're most likely going to be looking at a lot lower prices, right? And this is where I initiated some SPY puts, if you guys recall. And that's exactly what we were looking for. If we can reclaim 57, would be extremely bullish. High odds, we will visit the weekly single prints and ultimately revisit opposite extreme value area high, which would be this level here. If you can't, then you're accepting the prices lower with no access, means lower prices coming. Does that make sense? At least why?
Yep.
Read this box here, see if it makes sense. Because this would be a really good test for you to understand. When the price is cheap on something, it doesn't stay there for long, guys. How long did we stay below this value? We stayed there for 2 weeks. If this price was attractive to buyers, should it have stayed there for that long?
No.
No, there was no reason to stay there. So hence why I was targeting that, if we can't hold this, there's probably a high chance we're gonna sell off, and the rest is, I would say, history here. Does that make sense to all?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. What other questions on market profile? And I'll post this so you guys have it. There's a lot of, I would say, concepts in here that I covered for through, opening types that we have, distribution. How do I trade it? I think this would be good for you guys to kind of go through. I would say everybody in our Discord, we're a limited Discord, right? I think everybody's fairly helpful, right? We don't have a lot of drama.
Shorty, you're cutting in and out your mic. Is this a new PDF? A new PowerPoint?
Yeah, there's some stuff. This one, help you guys. Here's poor highs, poor lows explained. Inventory, this in detail. There's your date types. I would say print this slide out, value tip slide. Then I rank the date types, like which one carries the most confidence with buyers and sellers. And then here you also have the Peter tapes, the first 3 tapes. If you haven't listened, I suggest you guys listen to them, and then Drew to send them the rest of the tapes so he can release it to you guys.
I'm looking forward to the
Last is,
tips and tricks.
best thing that, when I trade live, I point out the things that I'm seeing and why I'm taking the trades, or Drew. I will tell you, hey, I see this structure here. I see the value area high. We're targeting some of the stuff that they were doing in the middle of the day, right? And right. So hopefully it makes sense. I don't know why. I have no idea. I didn't change anything. I would say this is a patience game for a lot of you guys. It's like learning a new language. So feel forced. You have to pack all of it. Like guys, uh, it takes a lot of experience to read the market and to make it more like a game like, where you're basically looking like same setups, same configurations over and over, and you're trying to gain an edge in the market. As of right now, right, I would say we're framing down on the weekly here. We're looking for lower prices. We are far from, I would say, where it's like, hey, you reclaim this level and we're bullish. We're not there, right? I would say there's a potential for a bounce coming in tomorrow. But you can see here, you have a nice distribution here, nice little gap here. If they want to, play, some games here, if they can get above 52.83 on the weekly, and then they're rejecting this value of Friday, and they would look to fill this poor structure probably all the way to the gap right here. And then you're looking to see, hey, can we build value where we were? Like, is this doable to get inside this? So this would be their ideal zone to get back in. But right now, they're rejecting these prices. They're looking for lower. I don't think necessarily we're done with lower, but I think we get a little break and ultimately go towards 2022 for value area low. All right. All right, guys. My mic's cutting out and my mouth's super dry. I think we've been on for almost 4 hours. I will see you guys tomorrow. I'll trade live. And by the way, my family and I are going to the beach Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so I'll most likely won't trade, but I'll have my phone and I'll post my thoughts to keep you guys on your toes as you're trading.
I should be on all week too. I'm feeling better, a little bit better, at least.
Okay. Yep. Thank you so much. All right, guys.
Shorty, you're gonna post version 5 of market profile.
I will. Yep. I'll post
where,
it.
Where will you post it? And do you have a